Good morning and welcome to my channel. My name is Arun Singh Rana, and in today's video, our main objective is to create a Node.js application that allows user to search for books and movies from a predefined array. So this will be my first backend video. I'll be explaining you each and every line of code. But further on, when we continue, I won't be explaining those line in the further upcoming videos. So this is our very basic backend logic in which we have been given a data that is an object, and inside an object, we have created two categories, which is movies and books, and each movies and books is a key in itself, and that those two keys respective value is the array of objects which contains the variety of data on their categories, which is books, variety of different varieties of books and movies. So let's go through the problem statement first. Create a Node.js application that enables user to search for books and movies available in the array. User should be able to search for books and movies by passing the query param. Okay, so we need to use the query param, and we also need to use the path param over here. It is not mentioned over here, but later in the example, you will see that the path param is also being used over here. Now, coming to the book search, users can search for books by the book's name only. And for movie search, the users can search for movies by the movie names only. So it is saying us that we can only search using the names only. But I thought of stepping it up further, and we can search for any movie and books if we know what type of genre it was, or who was the director or author for that particular article, or particular thing, either movie or book, or if we know the description, well, the description would be stretching it a bit further. But yeah, mainly like what is the category or genre of the category of the book or genre of the movie, what is the who is the author or director of the movie or a book, and the name of any of them. So these are the four parameters that the user would be able to use for getting the data. So yeah, that is what adding extra from my side. So this is the data. As you can see that we have been provided with the data. As you can see that this is a book and it is an array of object. And when we come down, this is the movie, and it also represents the array of objects, and each object represents a different movie, which includes the attribute keys like name, director, genre, and for books, it would be like name, author, category, description, and description for movies as well. Now, coming to the examples, as you can see that this is the example, and it is making use of a application known as Postman. Postman is a tester kind of software kit, which is very helpful for backend development. We can use it to test our APIs. Now, what are APIs? Now, APIs are known of the full form of the APIs is application programming interface, and it is a link. You can say that it is a kind of link that helps us to connect front end from back end. And whenever we send a request to the server, then it is sent to our API, and then that API, according to whatever the functionality API has in itself, it would do operations on the back end, and then back end on the server, and then it would take the result of those operations and then give it back to the client. So that is the gist of the who what API is. Now APIs are of different kind like that. It means that this API would be used to get the information requested by the user from the server. Then there is post, then there is delete, and there are multiple types of API, but we are only going to cover the get API because that is the that's the only thing that we'll be needing for this project. So coming to the example, as you can see that if the user is entering the URL, so this is the API's location. So as you can see that this is the location, and it is going to the path, or you can say that it is using the path param books as the category. And it is if we try to send a request on this API, then what would happen is that it should return us the whole array of objects of the book category. So as you can see that this is the API address, and when we click on send, then this is where our response would be shown. So response is like in the JSON format, and it contains two things. One is the key status, and another is the book. The key status is simply saying that the status of the request was okay, or the response was sent okay. And it also contains our array of books, sorry, array of objects, and each object can represent different books or details about different books. And if we want to search for a specific book using the name only, then what we can use that we can use the path param query param over here, which is represented when there is a question mark, or you can say that it is the query param is represented after the question mark. So the key would be inside a query param. The key would be name, and its value would be to kill a mockingbird. And when we click on send, then it only sends, it only gives us that specific object which contains the detail for the book with the name to kill a mockingbird. But as I told you, I decided to step it above further. So if the user types in something like, let's say it is the user is searching in books, and the user types in, let's say category fiction is equal to fiction, then what would happen is that the user would get all the details of all the books that has the category fiction inside their details. So that is the thing that I'll be showing you how to implement as well. Similarly, for movies over here, if the path param is movie over here, then simply movie and no query param is detected, then what should happen is that it would return the whole object of the book, a whole array of the book. And if there is a query param specified, then it would only show us the details about the movie that has that has the information that is being passed to the server through with the help of the query param. Now coming to my code. So this is my code. Now this is the code that I have made using the express.js. Express.js is the library that is used to write server-side codes, or you can say that we can use express.js to create our APIs. It is not a database management system. It is just to, you can say that, start a server or maintain a server or to create APIs. So first, to make our project or to first to make our backend application, what we need to do first, we create a folder and we use the terminal, and then we navigate to our terminal to our folder. So as you can see that the current parent folder is backend. Then I created a folder which is searching app assignment. After that, inside I need to navigate inside my searching app assignment. So what I'll do, inside my terminal, I'll write cd, which is the short form for change directory, and then I'll simply write searching app assignment. So if I press enter, then my current directory will be changed to my searching app assignment. Now what I did is that I created an empty node environment or an empty node uh, environment or an empty node application. And how did I do it? I did it with the help of the command, which is npm init. It creates a empty node instance, or you can say application, or an empty node environment. So when it does that, it would create an additional file which is known as package.json. But before creating that, the after we enter the npm.init command, it's asks us for various details, which are like, first, it would ask us for the application's name inside the terminal only, and you can write whatever name you want, but the name should not contain any capital letters. So first, it would ask for the name. Then it would ask for the version, that what is the current version, or the what is the version of the application you are working on. Then it would ask us for the description of the application. Then it would ask us the entry point or entry module of the node current node application. So do you remember that the Java in the JavaScript there is a main method, and it is known as the entry point inside our Java program. It means that the whole processing of our code would start from that main method. So similarly over here inside our Node.js application, when we talk about the entry module or entry point, it is saying that it means that we are specifying that from which file our processing of our Node.js should begin. Or you can say that this is the file that contains the data or the contains the command for starting up our server. So that's why you can specify any file, or sorry, not any file. You need to specify the name of the file in which you will be writing the code for starting the server, or you can say that you would be assigning that file as the entry point into our Node application. After that, it would ask us to write custom test scripts. If you do not want anything, then simply press enter. Then the author's name. I entered my name only, and after that, the license, there is no need to enter it right now. Then that's all. After that, it would ask us to confirm that whatever the details you have written or not. It would say us. It would say that enter Y or yes to confirm the details, or enter an or no to reinstate these details. Now, when we click on yes, or when we type yes and then press enter, then this package.json file would be created, and it would include all our details that I mentioned, which was name, version description, main, test script, author, license, etc. And after the creation of empty node application, what we need to do is we need to install our library, which is express.js. So to do that, what we'll do is that we'll write a command which is npm i express, and it would install our express. And to confirm that if we have installed our express, what we need to do is that we'll navigate to our respective package.json file, and we'll see inside our dependency array if the express is mentioned, it means that it was installed successfully. So that is how the initial setup is going to work. And after that, what I'm going to do is that I'll be yes, I forgot to mention, when the package library is installed, you will see two things appear inside your folder, which is first is the node modules folder, which contains our library for the express.js, and it would also a file would appear with the name as package log.json. Now, what does this file contains? This file contains our in detail information about the libraries or any dependencies that we are using. We do not usually and tamper around with this file, because it is the file that is already written uh, when we install a new dependency or new library. So after that, now we have our empty node application, and we have installed our library. Now we need to create an entry module that we specified while setting up the empty node application. Now we set it as the index.js. So that would be the name of our file. So we'll simply create a new file which is index.js. Now we'll go to inside our file and see how the API code is being written. So first, we remember in the React to import any thing from our library, we write the command which is import, then the thing that we want to import, then from, and then from which library to import, or from which location to import. Now here, similarly, the we use a require command over here, a require function over here. It works similar to import, but the syntax is different. So first we define what we need to import. Then we specify require function, and then inside the parenthesis we specify what to import. After that, as you can see that this is the my so as you can see that this is the data that was predefined inside my objective. As you can see that this is the object, and I simply copied and pasted it over here. I tempered it a little bit. How am I tempering with it? Is that as we know that the data was containing two different variables, and those two variables were holding the arrays of objects. Now, what I did over here is that I created a single variable, and it holds an object, which is this object over here, and this object contains those two variables that I just mentioned about, which is books and movies, as the keys. And these keys holds their respective arrays of objects. So as you can see that I created a parent object over here, and this is our first key books, and it contains our array of objects, which is the different books. As you can see that these are the different books. Just a second, I came down a little bit. Yeah, so this is the array of our different books, and it goes till, just a second, till here, till here. So this is the our value of the first key, which is books, which is the array of objects. Similarly for our movies. So this is the only tampering that I did with the original array. Now, how to use our express.js? We have first imported it. Now, to use our express.js, first we need to create an instance for it. What does it mean? That we are creating a variable that will have all the rights to use whatever functionality the variable or whatever the functionality we want from the express.js with the help of that variable, because it has all the rights of it. You can say that in that sense. So how to create the instance for the express? First, we specify which variable would be holding that instance, and then we use the express function over here to create that instance. After that, what we need to do, we need to create a router. Now, this word router is similar. You have might have heard which we used inside our React applications as well. So, what the use of the router in this backend code is that it routes our request to whatever API we are trying to access. So API has a single API has multiple sections. Okay, a single API can perform many different operations, and there can be multiple APIs like that. So what router is doing is that it holds or contains all those APIs or all those different functionalities of a single API or multiple APIs, and it gives us the access through the router. And whatever the API we're trying to access, it would be specified in our request URL, and the router would simply redirect that request to that specific API. Now, after that, we create our first API, which is a get API that I told you that it only helps us to get the information from the server, and it do not manipulates any of the data. So we are using a get API over here. So to create a get API, we first use our router. Then we create a get API. Then we specify that which route or which path the API would be on. Path param the API would be on. So as you can see that this is my current path param, which is category. So to specify the, as I've discussed in the previous videos before, to specify our path param, what we do is that we first write this forward slash, then we specify the colon, and then the key that would be holding our path param. So the path param, when we try to access the path param, it would return us an object. An object would that object would contain key value pairs. And what will be those keys? The keys will be the respective values that we mentioned after the colon over here. And these keys would be holding our whatever the path param the URL is currently holding. So after that, we create a function that this function defines what the API would be doing. So this function takes two parameters. One is request and then other is response. So the request is the request URL that we are getting from the client side, and the response is the response that we will be sending after doing the operations on the server or after fetching the data from the server or getting the data from the server. So after that, as you can see that we are going to access our path param. How we are doing that? If I first created our category, and after that category variable, and inside of it I am accessing my path param. So if I write request.params, then what it would do is that it would return me an object, and that object contains a key value, each and every key value pair for each and every path param. So, as you know, currently we only have a category as our param. So what I did is that first this request.param returns our object. Then I accessed the value that is held with the key category, and this category, the category I'm talking about, this category over here, because this is represented as the key inside my request.param object, and the value would be the current path param. Okay. So now the category variable is holding our current path param that or current path param that is included in our URL. After that, what I did is that the category represents if the user is trying to access our books or movies. So after that, what I did is that I use the sent variable to store whatever the category the client is trying to access. So the data, as I told you, is the object, and object contains two key, books and category. So books contains different books and movie contains different movies. So to access it, I used square braces over here. Now, why is that? Because I use it because when we use the I used it because the category is a dynamic key name because it can change. But you might be asking, then why didn't I use a dot operator instead of a bracket? I use it because the dot operator is used to access a static keys value, which means that it is used to access a specific keys value, because we know that there is a key inside that object with this name and we need its value. But in our case, the category can change according to the will of the client or whatever the client is trying to access. So it is a dynamic value. So to access that dynamic key, what we are doing is that because the category can be either a movie, we don't know what it could be. So to access that, we are not using a dot operator. We are using a square braces over here. Now, after that, I am accessing my object of query params. So similar to path params, if we define any query param, then the name or the value before r is equal to would become our key, and the value after r is equal to would become its respective value. So similar to request.params, the request.query would return us our query params object. And you can see that I am storing that object inside my queue. Now I am doing a check if the user has mentioned any of the query param. So how am I going to do that? So first I extracted the array of keys from my query param object. So if any of the query param is mentioned inside my URL, then the length of that array, the length of the keys array of that object should not be equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, it means that the user has not specified any of the query param, which means simply means that if the user hasn't specified any query param, then the object returned by request.query will have no keys inside of it. And if we try to access the array of keys, or you can say that if we try to access the keys, all the keys inside of it, inside the object in the form of an array. And if its length is 0, it means that there is no key and hence there is no path param. And if that is the case, then it means that the request would be looking something like this. This is the request. The request would be looking something like this: HTTPS localhost. This is the location, and then the category, which is books. And there, as you can see, there is no question mark, which means that there is not a query parent to be mentioned inside this request. And that is how I am checking for it. And if that's the case, then what we need to do is that we'll be returning the whole array of object without any searching functionality added to it, because the user wants to in this case the user wants to access the whole array of objects. So how am I doing that? I am using a return function to send our data. So we can send our data without the return function, but there's a specific reason for using the return over here, and I'll show you why. So first, we send our response from the API or from the backend using the response dot send functionality, and whatever it is mentioned within these parentheses would be sent as a response to our client. So first we need to send the data, which is a status. And okay, so yeah, we are using, I forgot to mention that what type of data we are using for communication or for transfer of data between front end and back end. So we are using a file format known as JSON, or the data type known as JSON, which is the abbreviation for the full form JavaScript object notation. Now, why are we using this? Because there are multiple reasons, and some of which are it increases the readability of the data that we are getting. It is really lightweight and easily maintainable. So, as you can see that if we try any other form of data type, then there is a limitation that it is really hard to understand. But if it is in object format, then we know, okay, that this key holds this value and this keys hold this value, and we can simply access that those values using those unique keys, because we know that the JSON only holds unique keys. So yeah, we are simply transferring data with the help of JSON. So that's why in lieu of that format data type, I'm returning an object over here. So the first key would be status, and then the other would be my category. Now again, I am using this category because if I use because as I told you, the category is a dynamic entity. So if we do not know what category the user is trying to access, and I want to show like if it is books or just a second, if the user is accessing books or if the user is accessing our movies, I want to show these names over here. So how am I going to do that? As I told you, if I do not use the square bracket, then it would consider this category as a key, and it would consider it as a key, but I want the category that is mentioned inside my path param. So I am using the square bracket, which signifies that I am using this category over here. So if I click on this category with the command button, it would highlight this category over here. Yeah, this is a tip. This is a friendly tip that if we go to any variable and if we want to see that where it is initialized or where this variable is taken from, we then simply hover over it, and then click on command, keep pressing on the command, and then click on this would convert the variable into a hyperlink, which would redirect us to the initialization of the variable, or where the variable is accessing its data from. So after that, if that this is how I'm dynamically mentioning if it is book or movie. After that, I'm simply sending that whole object. Now this is how the whole object is being sent. If the length of the query params object is not zero, then it means that there is some filtering that has been applied or searching that has been applied. Now, why I'm using the word filtering? Because when I said that I will be stepping it up further, then the main objective was searching the data using the name only. But what I am doing is that I'll be filtering the whole data, and whatever the genre of fiction that the user is typing, it will show all the data which contains which have the matching genre or director name or author name and etc. So to do that, what happens is that if this if condition is not executed, then it would come to this command, which is this return command. Again, what it would be sending is that it would be you making use of the response.send functionality, and what it would be sending is that we are sending the same object status and category as well, but what the category value would be is a filtered set of array of objects. And how we are filtering is that first we use as we know that set is our respective categories array. So we can apply our higher order function, which is filter. After that, applying filter, we are using a callback function, which takes the each and every input, which each takes the each and every object inside our array sent as the V. So V is representing our object in each iteration of our higher order function filter. So after that, if my you can see that what the functionality of the filter is that it is used over arrays, and if the if the condition specified in our callback function is met, then what we do that we return true. Then what happens is that if we return true, then the filter filter function returns a new array which only holds the elements in which were deemed true by the callback function over here. So as you can see that first what I did is that sorry. First, what I did that, as we know, the current query params path is not, sorry, the current query params, you can say length is not zero. It means that there is some query. So what I did is that, of course, I forgot to mention is that this whole filtering functionality would be valid for only one query parent, not multiple query parents. Because if I try to apply the filtering functionality for multiple query parents, then the code will become a bit complex. So this is for only one query parent. So first what I did is that I access the keys name from my query param using objects.keys and then the object's name. So it would return me the array of all the keys contained inside my queue or queue query param object. After that, I access my first key, which is at the index 0 because it is a array. So the indexing functions work over here to access our first element. So the first key, I'm accessing my first key like this. After that, as I told you, my V is the each and every represents each and every object within my array. So I am accessing the value that is with the respective key that the user is searching for. That the user has mentioned inside my query parent as the key. So the V would access the respective value that is held with this key, which is specified inside my path param. Now, after that, what is happening is that I'll be seeing if the returned value includes the value that is held within my within my within my path params first keys value. So as I told you, the genre can be anything. You might be wondering that I could have accessed my value with the name of the key or using the dot operator like q dot and then the name of the whatever the filtering is being done on. So as I told you, the user can filter on six bases almost or five bases: name, author, uh, director, genre, and what was the other thing? Genre and just a second, category. So these five parameters, even description as well, but that is being being a bit far-fetched because no one can exactly know the whole description of a book or a movie or the exact description. So it is checking. Now let me show you how it's done. So I imagine this is my query param object that is written inside my queue. So let's say the user typed something like category and it holds the value something like fiction. Okay. So now, if we use the object.keys, then the category would be returned inside an array. And I'm accessing the first element and the category would be our first element. So what would happen is that our V is an object. And what is the object? It is the object of our respective category, either movie or books that is specified in the request URL. And we'll be accessing their category. In this case, we are talking about category. It would be accessing their that object's category's value. Okay. So because I'm using because as I told you again, the value of our first key can be anything. That's why I use square braces over here because it is a dynamic entity. Uh, so after that, this would be returning our value. Now I'm simply searching if the value includes my fiction coordinate and how I'm accessing my function because as I told you to access objects access a key's respective value inside an object we need to specify that specific key, but we as I told you the key is dynamic. So what I did is that just like how I'm accessing the arrays of key, I am also using object.value to access my array of sorry for that to access my array of array of values. So after accessing that, as I told you, the current backend program or filtering functionality is for one query param. So so naturally the first element would be our current query params parameter. So that is how I am accessing it. Okay. So if my data from the object that is contained inside my V is including whatever the data is inside my query param, then what would happen is that it would return V, or we can write true over here. Otherwise, it would return false. And if the current uh, value that is returned by the ternary operator is false, then the filtered array returned by my filter function won't include that object. So that is how I'm sending the array of objects using the filter functionality and dynamically filtering my whole data. So after that, we need to use our router. So to use our router, we first need to create a middleware. After creating, how to create a middleware, a global middleware, is that we use app.use and we specify our root path. So this is the our root path, or you can say the server's basic path. After that, I specify what to use. As I told you, our router contains our whole each and every API. So we'll be making use of that router. After that, what is happening is that I need to start my server. So to start my server, I use the functionality app.listen, and it is used to listen any requests made to that to the specific part that we mentioned in our first parameter. So because this is not deployed, so we'll be making use of our ports that are predefined inside our systems. So I'm making use of port number 8000 over here. So app.listen would listen all the requests made to this specific port only. After that, there's another function parameter which is used for a callback function or a function. So we can use this function as a safe check just to see if our server has started. So this function would only execute if our server has started successfully. So the function would simply execute this command, which is console.log listening 8000, or you can say that server started. You can simply write this as well. Okay. Now to run our server, what we need to do is that we need to specify our entry module along with the node name. So we write node, then space, then our entry module name. As you can see that after writing this, our server started successfully. How did we know that it started successfully? Because I am seeing the same message inside my console over here. As you can see that server started at port 8000. Now to test our API if it is working or not. Now to test our API, we make use of Postman software. It is used to test backend applications only. It is very handy. Now how to use it? To use it, first install it and then log into it. This is would be the interface that you will be first seeing. Now first we create our new collection. Now, what the collection is that it holds the different testing for different APIs or whatever we want. So after creating a new collection, we create our new add request. So as you can see that it would create our new add request testing functionality. You can say that. Now, as you can see that this is multiple APIs that we can test. We test a get API, we can test a post, we can test a put API, we can test a patch, delete, head, or options API. So as I told you, we have our API started or server started at the port 8000. Now, how to access that? We access that at the local host. Just a second, it is already written. Localhost. So localhost is the default domain name inside our local system because it is a local server. So that's why it is known as localhost. And then we specify our current port name, the port name that the server is running on, and then its root location, which is this slash over here. We can specify the slash. Okay. So this is how we specify our API. Now, if I click on send, then it would send the request to the API. Now, as I told you, this is our default root element. Now to access our category, okay, let's just send this access. Now, as you can see that it is saying giving us an error. Now, why is that? Because we haven't specified any of the API at the root location. Now, the root location is has uh, doesn't have any API, so that's why it is saying that cannot get anything from this location. Now, I forgot to mention that I was going to explain why I'm using return over here. Now, as we know that API is used to first fetch the request from the client, then do all the operation according to the request inside my server, then send a response back to the client after applying those responses. So now what happens is that our API or our backend can send only one response per request. Okay. So if I'm using function over here, and you can see that my function includes two send response statements. One is over here. One is over here, and second one is over here. So what happens is that if I do not specify return, then what would happen is that it would not terminate the working of our current function, and then it would proceed on to send another response, and that would give us an error saying that we cannot change the header after the response is sent. So let me just try it out. Okay. So okay, what we'll do, I will try it out a bit later. Let's just see if our function API is functioning correctly or not. Okay. So yeah. So first, let's access our whole library of our books collection. So if I mention this now, whatever I write over here would be considered as my path param because I specified it over here. Just a second. I just specified it after our root location. Okay. So I want to access my books. As you can see that I am getting uh okay, I forgot to mention. Now if I click on send over here, then the response sent by the API is shown over here. So this is the response that is sent by our API. So as you can see that first it sends this object. The object contains the things that we mentioned in our response.send, which was status okay. Then the dynamically this name is taken dynamically with from our path param. After that, as I told you, the there is no query param mentioned. So the current query params path object's length would be 0. So that's why it would execute this if function and it would send us our whole library of our books or array of objects. So this is everything. As you can see that the last name of the book is default in our stars. So let's check our database. The fault in our stars is the last book name of the book. So it is sending each and every data. Now let's say if I want to uh, filter my data on the basis of let's say category. Okay, category. So let's apply my query param, and this specifies my query param. Okay, let's see. Let me see the if my movies is also coming up or not. As you can see that movies is also coming up. Now let's apply the query param to access my specific name. Let's specific name. Okay, so if I want to access this only. Now to specify our query param, we use question mark. It means that now we are using the query param. So the name of the key is name, then is equal to then my movie that I want to search. Now if I click on send, then my movie, then my array should only contain that object only. If I click on send, just a second. As you can see that the response was made successfully, this request was made successfully, and the response has been received successfully. And response contains the only movie's name that is matching the query params parameters passed with the along with the name key. So let's say if I want to access all the movies with the genre drama. Okay. So if I would need to remove the query param from name to genre, and after that I will specify which genre. So yeah, as you can observe over here also, my params over here is also being changed. So you can type any value or thing that you want to use inside our path param, or sorry, query param. So as I told you, I write genre then is equal to drama. And it is showing that the genre would be made as a key inside a query params object, and its respective value would be drama. Now, if I click on search, then it should give me each and every movie with the genre containing drama name in it. So as you can see that it is returning each and every movie with the genre name drama in it. So the genre is drama, drama, drama. As you can see that this genre is historical drama. Now, as I told you, I used includes function over here. So the includes function is a string function which checks if the first string mentioned before the includes function contains the string that is mentioned inside the parenthesis of includes function. So the historical drama contains our drama word, so it is also returning that as well. So as you can see that the code is running just fine. Uh, so let's do for the books as well. Okay. Now I need to change my path param from movies to books, and I want to access the movie books with the category. Let's say fiction. Okay, fiction. I want each and every book's detail with the genre fiction. So okay, let's do changes over here. Okay. Now category and its key should be. Keep an eye over in the URL as well. If I make changes, it also makes changes over here. Now fiction. Now if I click send, it should give me each and every book with the category fiction. As you can see that it is giving me books as well. Books over here, fiction, dystopian fiction, science fiction, gothic fiction, gothic fiction, dystopian fiction, philosophical fiction, historical fiction. So as you can see, it is giving us each and every fiction. Now let's cross verify if I'm getting each and every fiction. Okay. Now let's see the number of books. This is our first book. Two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. So let's see. I have used my search function over here, Control F command over here. So it would command F command over here. So it would give me a find and replace option. So I search fiction over here. Now let's see if my I'm getting how much was it? Just a second. So yeah. It should contain okay, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Okay, now movies is starting from here, so it should contain nine data. So let's see. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. So as you can see that each and every book is coming. So you can see that my API is working just fine, and a user can filter it either by the author's name. Let's say I want to see the author's name. Okay, Harper Lee. Okay, I must have mentioned it wrong. Okay. Just a second. I did it wrong. The author is over here, and then Harper Lee. So if I click send over here, the server should send me each and every book with the author name as Harper Lee. As you can see that it is doing that as well. Now coming to the experiment that I told you that why we are using return over here. So let's remove our return over from over here. Now to see any changes being applied, we need to restart our server. So we use Control C to end our server. Then we again start our server using node.index.js. Now if I click send over here, now if we come back to our server, uh, Just a second. I forgot to remove that as well. Now, if I again send a request, okay, so it is not giving me the error. But yeah, usually we get an error, and what's that? Okay, okay, okay. We are not getting the error because of one specific reason. Now, why is that? Because of this if statement, because my query param is not empty, right? So let me empty my query param. So now the query param is also empty, and also my if command. So if command would execute, so this send function would execute, and this would execute as well. So if I click on okay, now I need to restart the server again. Just a second. Control C, then start the server. Now let's test it. As you can see that I am getting an error. Now what is the error? Am I able to see it? Just a second. Layer. Okay, so as you can see that it is executing both the responses. So it is giving us an undefined because our path param is empty. So let's do one thing. Let's simply send a simple message which is sent on, let's say, second response. Okay. So now, forget about this third response. It would give us an error because there is no query param inside it. So it should now give me an error. So if I again try to send something, now coming back to our. So as you can see that the first error is cannot set headers after they are sent to the client. It means that we cannot send another response if the response was already sent at first. So first this response was sent, then another this response was trying to be sent, but was not able to be sent because it was already sent, and API can or the server can only give one response per request. Okay. After that, the rest of the error is just because the query param is empty. Okay. Now let me just reset the code. Okay. So yeah, that's how the I was able to achieve my main objective, which was to create a simple searching app. But I stepped it up a little bit by using filter functionality, which the user can dynamically filter the returned data. So well, that's all. You can find the link of this repository, this project repository in the YouTube in this video's description. Well, that's all, and thank you so much for watching.